So what we're doing today, I took the lock off because we're actually getting ready to install the trigger. And the trigger is going to, it needed a little bit of filing according to Jim. So I took a filed that down. And if you're not familiar with these Colonial Rifle, this is a single set trigger. So there's not a double set trigger. There's no two triggers on this. Some muzzleloading rifles will have a set trigger in the back and then an actual actuator trigger in the front. And that's not what this is. This is single set. It's your typical smooth bore rifle. So there's only going to be one trigger on this one. So with that said, what I've done is I got my trigger ready, and now underneath of here there's a pin, and let me find the metal, show you. So this is the metal pinning, and this is actually piano wire, and they temper it so it's a little bit more stout the way it needs to be. Actually, I've been utilizing piano wire like this. If you ever find an old piano and you're going to throw it away, you know you're going to throw it away, let me know, because I love to take a lot of the wire out there because it's some of the stiffest wire available. And so there's a lot of uses for it in all kinds of different things, but particularly for muzzleloading. So with that said, now I'm going to cut a little piece of this and then install that trigger, and I'll come back to you when I'm doing it. So here's what's next. Here's the trigger. I've got to stick this pin down through the stock and meet that hole down inside the stock without being able to see it. So here's what's going to happen. It's going to take me a while. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'll let you know how long it took me, because it's going to be a while. Well, it didn't take me as long as I thought it would. I'm trying to get this where you can see down in there. That little hole down there, that little metal piece you can see down in that hole, that's the actual trigger. That's what, sorry I had to hold that flashlight in my mouth, but that little pin right there is the piece that I just installed. Forgive me for my dirty fingernails, I've been working in concrete all day. But so this trigger mechanism comes up and hits the sear, which releases the hammer down. So what we do next, I don't know. So there you go. Well, this is what the test was. So what he said is you wanted a little bit of play when the hammer is all the way down. When it's at half cock, you want a little bit of play, and then at full cock, again, you want just a little bit of play. So I'm holding the camera in my hand tonight, so I can't do this. But what I've already done several times is I've done that, checked all those. Now I'm getting ready to release the hammer all the way down and go on to the next step. So the next step is, you can see the pin. I cut off a little extra, or left a little extra. So it's now time to install the lock back. So hopefully you can tell what's going on there. But so what I'll do is I'll slightly pull this out, cut it off, and then tap it back in, replace the brass side plate on here, and then everything will be locked back into place. So all I did, that's what you can see. Where'd it go? Right here. Right here. So what I did is I just pulled it out ever so slightly with these electrician's pliers, snapped it off with them, and then tapped it back in there in place. Now I'm getting ready to place all this. Again, what I'm looking for when I get this tight, you may remember from an earlier video that I made, I'm looking at the gap between the flash pan and the barrel. I don't want powder to be able to get between those two. So what I should have here, if everything went together right, this is all the way down, pull back to half cock. Should be able to, nothing happened here, nothing. Then pull it all the way back, and this is where the magic happens. There was a flint on it. It would strike the frizzen. Again, the frizzen would spark, just like flint and steel, because that's what it is, flint and steel. Powder would be ignited in the flash pan and the priming pan, go into the barrel. So again, I'm just going to test it again. Pull it back to half cock. I'm holding on to it just in case it doesn't work. No problem here whatsoever. And then full cock. Not much at all. So just to start to play with a little bit and know how much trigger pull I have, it's tight or heavy. Man, that's really nice. That's going to be an incredibly smooth trigger pull. One thing I don't like about it right now is that slop right there, which he wanted to be in there. Just don't like that making noise. No big deal though. So there you have it. That's triggers installed, and I probably, just guessing, the trigger guard goes next, so see what happens. Well, so I was wrong. Here's the next step. We're going to actually test and make sure this works. So the way this is designed to work, the flint, and I'll try to get Jennifer to come in and hold the camera for me. The flint's going to come down, and you want this face of the flint to strike flat against this. So you release the trigger, make sure that this is lined up flat with the frizzen, and then you also want to release it all the way so that you know when it goes all the way down that the flint does not strike the barrel. And so both of those things are true. Half cock. So the next part of this is the moment of truth. So what we'll do is make sure this is tight, and I'll pick it up here because I want to hold this in a safe direction and let her rip.
3, 2, 1, roll.
So again, we're sitting at half cock right now. I line this up to make sure it hits flat with the frizzen. Frizzen goes down, pull it, full cock, and now the moment of truth. Watch right here, you should see sparks come off. This is done right. That's awesome. So yeah, that's what we're looking for. That's why it's called a flint lock. Lock, flint, hitting the frizzen, throwing sparks. Eventually we'll have priming powder in here, and that's going to set her off. So yeah, that's good. That's good part of this process. Thanks. So yeah, the next step, let me get this cranked up so you can see a little bit better. So yeah, the next step is the trigger guard, which is going to go approximately right here, but there's a fair amount of filing that goes on either side, and then some more right here, so all this is going to fit nicely. So he was recommending that everybody put this in a vise, or at least stabilize it on the table while they're doing filing like this. So I'm just resting it on the table. He did everything by hand, just in his hand. He's probably done thousands of these, so I don't pretend to be that good. Brass, I have found, I just had no idea. I never worked much with brass. Most of the stuff I've ever done has been iron furniture on knives and pouches and stuff of that nature that I've built, because I always put iron. I didn't actually know until I started this project that brass is more historically accurate than iron for the period that I'm building this rifle. I'm actually a bigger fan of iron furniture. When I say furniture, all these pieces like the side plate and the trigger guard, all that being iron, but upon more research, I discovered that the brass furniture is more historically accurate to the period that I'm trying to build this rifle to replicate. So, yeah, but it all works out. It looks good. So it doesn't want to fit in there real good. So I'm just really taking my time and getting these in there such that I'm not doing anything too much at once. That's been my typical behavior on projects like this, so I'm just taking my time. I'll get back to you when I get it fitted. So I had to take off actually quite a bit of brass on this end of the trigger guard. So, but now I've got it fit in there really well. So yeah, looks like there's 2 pins that hold this in, and I didn't see holes pre-drilled in the brass, so I guess I'm gonna have to drill holes for that too. We'll see what's next. So there's 2 little bird edges. I guess this is the mold or where these things are made. I don't really know what that is actually. So I'm just grinding those off. They're to be flat with a file. And as I said earlier, brass is soft. I'm just not used to working with brass. So I kind of bent it and had to reform it. Again, I'm just tapping it back when I do something screw up like that with my little dogwood mallet. So oh, my little mallet. There's my little dogwood mallet. Perfectamundo. Rock and roll, son. Yeah, looks good, don't it? I'm happy. So the next step was to basically those 2 small... So when I tried to put the ramrod in, it was super tight in the pipes. First thing I noticed, I'd mashed one of the pipes just a little bit, not much, and I got it back to where it needs to be. But the ramrod is still too tight, so I'm taking down the ramrod for the entire length of the rod. We'll try to get it fitted up and I'll get back to you. Alright, so that took a little bit more work than I expected, and it's not anywhere near where I wanted it to, but still needs to be sanded down some more. But you can see the fit of the ramrod in the bottom of the rifle now. We're getting there. I'm gonna take it out and sand it till I'm satisfied. But basically, I probably won't cover this on video, but man, there's a lot of dust in here. You then cut it off right at the barrel. Let me tell you something. So some traditionalists have the ramrod stick out a little bit further than the rifle, so it's easier to grab a hold of. And that's the way my dad's rifle is, a very traditional built, Herschel house built rifle. And that's fine and dandy, but man, I got a bunch of dust in my beard. But I tell you what, that in the modern day, that runs into problems when you're trying to put it in a truck. Because if there's no way to really lay it down and not put pressure on the ramrod. So that's a problem. So with that said, I'm going to cut it off right at the barrel and take it from there.